Welcome to Ray Merriman, who just completed his 41st annual forecast book, a 192-page look into the year 2017 through the eyes of a well-known financial astrologer. In this year's book, as in every year's book, Ray studies the placement of the outer planets by sign and aspects to one another and draws upon themes that were present in previous historical cases during these same planetary cycles. He also looks at the long-term charts of various financial markets and draws comparison of their behavior under these past geocosmic conditions to what is developing today. From this and his understanding of the financial and political arenas, he derives the basis for his annual forecast. So, Ray, welcome to this interview.
Thank you, Antonia. It's a pleasure to be with you once again. Thank you.
Great, and it's really your 41st annual forecast book. So many have you written already. That is, wow, I'm impressed.
I've been very prolific since 1976.
Wow.
Yes, it's
And
quite an achievement.
And it gets translated in some languages, right?
Yes, it's translated into German, Japanese, Dutch, and of course, English.
Wow, great. Okay, then very briefly, can you give us a glimpse onto this year's forecast book and tell us the major geocosmic cycles in effect in 2017 and what they imply for the world?
Sure. We're in the early stages of what we call a cardinal T-square. We had this during the Great Recession, and it's coming back again. And it's not that it's that frequent, but it is coming back again. It involves Jupiter in Libra, opposite Uranus in Aries, T-square, they both square Pluto in Capricorn, is shown by the red lines in this chart that you have illustrated. So, according to my understanding of André Barbault of Paris, France, a well-known mundane astrologer, when you get cardinal T-squares involving Jupiter and Uranus, it frequently correlates with shocks to the financial system of the world and sudden severe drops in the stock markets of the world. It doesn't happen every time, but it happens frequently. So this T-square, the red T-square shown in the chart here, is in effect November of 2016 through August of 2017. Now, as you look at that chart, you'll also see a blue triangle, and this connects Saturn in Sagittarius to Uranus in Aries. That's very important. That's a 45-year cycle, and it's going to be in effect December of 2016 through November of 2017. Now, this is important because it's a very rare aspect. It only happens 4 times in U.S. history, and in each case, we had a 4-year or greater cycle crest in U.S. stocks. And in 3 of those 4 cases, a bear market began in stocks that lasted 2 to 7 years, in which the Dow Jones Industrials declined 25 to 46%. Now, the last time this aspect occurred was in July 1972 through May of 1973. And you can see the chart on the screen here, where I have the red circle. That was the all-time high of the Dow at that time in January 1973, right in the middle of Saturn trine Uranus. And you can see after that, it declined for 2 years. It lost 46% over a 2-year period as it fell into the bottom in what we call the 36-year cycle of the Dow Jones Industrial Average. And it's also important what was going on politically at that time. That was a time when the USA president, the first president in history, resigned from office during the Watergate scandal. So when you put these 2 things together, the Jupiter, Uranus, Pluto T-square with the Saturn trine Uranus, they're overlapping between December 2016, August of 2017. We expect an all-time high to occur during those months, followed by a serious drop in the stock market. It may be very short, it may be only 1 month, as was the case in 1926, or that drop can last 2 to 7 years, as was the case the other 3 times that Saturn trined Uranus. So that's the most important thing we're looking at, those 2 aspects.
Wow, that's very interesting. Are there narrower time frames when these sudden reversals might be more prominent based on other geocosmic signatures?
Yes, we can narrow these time bands down just by looking at the times when the Jupiter-Uranus Pluto T-square are most in effect. The first one is again this January 1st, 2017. You see they're both happening then, Jupiter-Uranus Pluto T-square, Saturn trine Pluto. And this is in effect, this first time it's in effect is November 26th through November 24th through December 26th. So this is a very important time right now as we're recording this, the first part of December. The second time is going to take place February 22nd to April 21st. Now, that's a very important time because not only is the Jupiter-Uranus-Pluto T-square back into effect in March, but also Venus will go retrograde March 4th through April 15th. Now, Venus turns retrograde. That's a very important event in geocosmics that takes place. It happens every 19 months, but every 8 years it occurs in the same part of the zodiac. As you see on this chart, Venus is retrograde 13 degrees of Aries. That happened 8 years ago, and 8 years before that, and 8 years before that. But if you go back 8 years ago, March 6, 2009, you'll see the chart of the Dow Jones bottomed. The 75-year cycle bottom occurred exactly on March 6, 2009. Now go back to that chart before, where you see the Venus when it goes direct, which is April 15th. You see Venus in late Pisces, and it's going to square Saturn in late Sagittarius. Venus is changing directions, going from retrograde to direct. Saturn is changing directions, going from direct to retrograde. So that's going to be very strong too during the middle part of April. So when you ask me, can we narrow the time bands down? Yes, we got November 24th to December 26th that is highlighted. We have February 22nd to April 21st. These are the two most important times when you try to narrow the time bands down of these major aspects happening in 2017, as we describe in detail in the Forecast 2017 book.
Yes, and you wanted to mention something about the central banks that I think is pretty important. Can you highlight that again?
Well, the central time band for Venus retrograde it does happen on March 4th. And oftentimes it's a retrograde that is so important. As I show here, the last time it did go retrograde at this same degree was in March of 2009. And the time when it goes direct is important too, which is April 15th, 2015. Now, central banks, you mentioned central banks. What I wanted to say during Venus retrograde is that when Venus rules money, and so when Venus goes retrograde, we oftentimes see a major or several major central banks of the world, such as the Federal Reserve Board, the Bank of Japan, the European Central Bank, we oftentimes see them make a surprise announcement changing their monetary policy. And if the market's been falling hard, they change it in such a way the markets reverse and they go up, as would happen in March of 2009. However, if the stock market's making a high during this Venus retrograde and they make a decision to tighten rates and monetary policy, markets fall hard from an all-time high. So we're looking for one of those things to happen when Venus goes retrograde. It's either making an all-time high or it's already made a high and it's having a big decline, and the central banks step in and they make a change of a policy and it reverses.
That's amazing. And so thank you for that. But given these cycles, how should we as individuals, like myself, prepare ourselves as we approach 2017?
Well, think of it as a very Uranian year. And with Uranus being so prominent, it's going to be exciting and it's going to be adventurous. It's not going to be a year that's going to go as you planned. There's going to be a lot of unexpected, unpredictable things that happen. So you need to be adjustable. You need to be flexible. Now, we can break it down a little bit here. We can look at Jupiter and Libra, which is usually a good time for meeting people. And when Uranus is involved, it's meeting new people who are inspirational. You know, they're exciting, they're charismatic, they bring new ideas to you, and you bring them to them. But because Uranus is involved, it means it's also like a roller coaster. You get these great heights in awareness and excitement, and then you get these great falls where you're going, you know, into the valley, the bottom of the valleys and the high peaks. You get them both. So it's a very Uranian year. And I think that's because the United States has a new president who is also very Uranian. As you see from this chart, the inner wheel here is Donald Trump's chart.
Mm-hmm.
The inner, and he's born under a lunar eclipse, the sun opposite the moon there that we got the red lines connecting.
Yeah.
And up there with the sun, you got the north node and Uranus. So he's a lunar eclipse, which is also very changeable because it's a mutable eclipse. But it's even more dramatic because the sun conjuncts Uranus. So he is going to dominate this year. He's a Uranian person. We're having a Uranian year from December. Actually, it started in November when he was elected, 2016. That's when the T-square began. And it's going to last all the way to August 2017. It's the year of Trump. He's going to dominate the news cycles. And that means because he's dominating the news cycle and his temperament is very dominant. So it could be a year that's brilliant. It could be fun. It could be exciting. But it could also be very erratic and very unpredictable. Okay?
Yeah, thank you so much, Ray, for that brief overview of your forecast 2017 book. And let me remind our viewers that you not only cover the financial markets, you also give some great forecasts for the 12 signs, in which you also talk in depth about love and relationships. And I love that part. When's the book going to be out?
Well, it's at the printer right now. It should be out in a little more than a week. December 15th is the cutoff date, so we'll get it either that day or a couple days before. It'll be sent out immediately so that those who order now will get it by Christmas. The ebook will be available around December 15th. And if you want the printed version, it's also going to be available in German, of course, through Astrodata in Zurich, Switzerland, as you show on the screen here.
Yes, and I highly recommend that because you have this great calendar in the printed book where, you know, everybody can write down the appointments that you will give the ephemeris and what's going on at those days.
I put that there because I value that so much. I like to know what's going on every day. Where is the moon? And I like to have a calendar to put my list of my appointments and things coming up that are important that day, and I can make my decisions oftentimes based on the moon and the aspects it's making.
And that's you get that only with the printed version, of course. You cannot take notes on an ebook.
Well, it's in the ebook, but there's not much you can do with it, so it's better with the printed edition.
Yes.
And there's a limited printed edition. Whatever orders we get as of December 1st, and December 1st is past now, we add 20%, and that's our print. And when it's gone, it's gone. We don't have other printing. So last year it went out in 3 weeks. It was sold out. Hopefully, we got more orders this time, and we have enough to cover the rush that comes in just before Christmas.
Yeah, be ready to order. And you have another great, exciting event coming on, and that's your live webinar.
Yes, I do 3 of these a year where I update the forecast book and go into more detail what's happened currently as of the time of the webinar. So January 29th will be our first live webinar in 2017. It's limited to 100 people, although there will be DVD, not DVDs, but MP4s available for those who can't make the live edition. But everybody likes to be at the live edition. Every one we have sells out. So check our website for that. It's going to be posted sometime in the next week, and you can start reserving your place there too.
Thank you, Ray. I can't wait to have the German edition of your book in my hands.
Thank you, Antonia.
Okay.
It's been great being with you, Antonia. I love these interviews we have, and my subscribers do too, and the readers of our weekly column do too. So thank you for this service you provide for astrology and for our work. Thank you so much.
I love doing it. Thank you. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.